these videos, I'm going to go through step by step how I make one of my products, in this case, a Sporran. So to begin with, I'm going to make the front flap. And this front flap will also act as the belt loop, which will be located in the back, but we'll see that later. So to start with, I designed a pattern for this piece. I cut it out of paper. I placed it over a piece of vegetable tan leather and came up with my master. Now the reason I come up with a master is these paper patterns are kind of hard to trace around. So if you have an actual master and you're going to be doing multiple pieces, it's better to have a master that's got some thickness where you can run your stylus across. To mark this on my raw piece of leather, I'm going to use this metal stylus, which won't leave any kind of a colored mark, but it will leave a slight indentation which I will be able to see to cut out the piece. So I begin by looking for a nice section of leather that's fairly free from blemishes. There's always going to be blemishes on a vegetable tan piece of leather like this. It's a natural material, comes from a cow. Cow's out in the field, running up against trees, barbed wire fences, who knows what. And so there's going to be different marks and imperfections in the leather, which I believe actually add to the uniqueness of each piece that I make. So, but you don't want major flaws that are going to interrupt the dyeing process or the sewing or construction process. So once I've got my master, and once I've got the area that I think I'm going to use to cut this piece out, I get it in place, and then I start tracing. So I'm going to use a leather knife, and I've also got my stylus that I just used, and I also have a number 11 blade and a standard X-Acto handle, and my straight edge, which I'll be able to use for some sections of this particular piece. But most of the piece will be cut out freehand. So I've also have my goggles on, because I'm an old guy, helps me to see. So it doesn't really matter where I start. And now I'm going to trim this off the big piece. We can set that to the side and come back to finish cutting this last curve. Alright, so there we have our first piece. So here I'm adding some of the details, or some of the structural details of the flaps for the Sporrans that I'm working on. Essentially, we're going to have these two slits where the belt, the kilt belt, will slip through the Sporran, hold the Sporran to the belt that way. Now, I don't know how other people do this, and there's probably better ways to do this, but I do it. I have to cut it by hand. I don't have a punch tool that's the right size or the right dimensions to do this, so I'm cutting it by hand. And I'm going pretty slow because I don't want to go past my marks. I just put in a new fresh blade in my X-Acto knife, so hopefully I'll cut the leather and not me. Fortunately for most of it, I can use a straight edge. And I essentially work from the end point of each slit and work towards the middle. That way there's less likely to overcut, so that you don't end up with a opening bigger than you really want it to be. So I've cut the 2 lines for the opening, but I want to have the top edge just a little different than just a straight cut. So I'm going to have to move over to my other bench, and so here I am at my bench, and I'm going to punch out the ends of the slot, and I've just got a simple hole punch. I'm going to set it at the top of my slit. A few good whacks. Same again here. And then again on the other end of the slot. So now I should be able to pull these pieces right out. Apparently I didn't make my cut through enough. Okay, there we go. I'm kind of checking to make sure that those look right to me. Look pretty good. As you can see, I don't keep the neatest bench, so line them up here. Looks like I'm pretty much on point with having these be even. So that worked out pretty well. So now the next step on this and all my flaps, I would be wetting these down, what they call casing the leather, making it wet in order to apply my stamp. I have a logo stamp, my Moncrief Leathers logo, that I imprint on all of my work so that you know it came from Moncrief Leathers. So that'll be the next step before dyeing.